Welcome to the Deep Dive. Our mission today is to take a really close look, a deep dive into the career of someone who seems like, well, a walking contradiction in comedy, David Cross.
Absolutely. Born April 4th, 1964, Cross is just this fascinating split, isn't he? You've got the really sharp political satirist, the alternative comedy icon, the Mr. Show guy.
Right, the cult Gen X comedy figure.
Exactly. Black comedy, really pushing boundaries. And then on the other side, huge mainstream Hollywood success. Blockbusters.
That's what we want to unpack, that exact juxtaposition. How does the mind behind Mr. Show, which was so anarchic, so ahead of its time, how does that guy end up, in an Alvin and the Chipmunks movie?
Not just in it, but famously having this awful experience.
Yeah, complaining about being dressed as a pelican on a cruise ship and losing a ton of money for it. It's this wild journey from, the fringes to the absolute center of commercial entertainment.
And back again sometimes. It's full of these moments that really make you think about what selling out even means anymore, or the real power or lack thereof of anti-establishment comedy today.
His main styles, the political stuff, the alternative, the blue comedy, they feel worlds away from his most famous character, Tobias Funko.
Totally different energy, though maybe Tobias has his own kind of tragic outsider thing going on. But yeah, the style's distinct.
And we can't forget the recognition he got. Everyone knows Tobias from Arrested Development. That show was huge, and it brought him, well, massive visibility.
Right, those Screen Actors Guild nominations for the ensemble cast, 3 of them.
But even before that, he had serious writing chops officially recognized.
That's key. He won a Primetime Emmy way back in '93 for writing on The Ben Stiller Show.
Which is where he met Bob Odenkirk, right?
Exactly. That Emmy, that early validation as a writer, it sort of set the stage for Mr. Show. And that really crucial partnership with Odenkirk. It showed the industry he had the skills, even before he became known for his specific brand of weirdness.
Okay, let's dig into that. Let's start at the beginning, because if you really want to get where his specific kind of anger and that outsider viewpoint comes from, you've got to look at his upbringing. It wasn't easy.
No, definitely not. Born in Roswell, Georgia, Jewish family. His dad immigrated from Leeds in England. But the defining thing seems to be this constant financial instability. It sounds like it really forged his perspective.
Yeah, the sources mention moving all the time, Florida, New York, Connecticut, back to Georgia, chasing stability, it sounds like.
And apparently never really finding it. He talks about having very little money, being evicted, even living in motels sometimes, or crashing with friends.
That kind of precarity, always being insecure, displaced. You can see how that might make you pretty skeptical of, the system of wealth, of established structures.
It absolutely creates a critical eye. And then on top of that, his father left the family when he was just 10.
Wow, 10.
Yeah. And Cross has said they haven't spoken since he was 19. That kind of abandonment mixed with the money troubles.
Yeah.
It's not just background noise. It feels like the source code for that outsider comedy.
And that feeling found an outlet pretty early. He started doing stand-up when he was only, 17?
Around then, yeah. Apparently the day after he graduated high school in Atlanta, he just bolted for New York City. The classic aspiring artist move.
Didn't quite stick immediately, though, did it?
No. Briefly worked for a lawn care company out on Long Island, which must have felt a little different from the comedy dream.
Just a bit. Then he ended up in Boston for college.
Emerson College. But he dropped out after just 1 semester.
Didn't last long.
No, but it was crucial. He joined a college sketch group there. This is pathetic. And that's where he met John Ennis, who became a collaborator later on.
Ah, okay. So even that short time was productive. But Boston, the comedy scene there in the 80s and early 90s, he didn't exactly fit in, did he?
Not at all. He described it pretty harshly. Called it something like a loud, dumb, pandering, racist, homophobic type scene.
Ouch!
Yeah, he was talking about that kind of lowest common denominator club comedy. He found it intellectually lazy, offensive, just totally alienating, which, is often the best motivation to create something radically different.
So it pushed him towards the alternative.
Completely. And around 1990, that alternative scene started to bubble up.
Yeah.
At Catch a Rising Star in Boston, he was performing alongside people like Jan Garofalo. Louis C.K. was around too. This was the beginning of that more self-aware alt-comedy wave.
And he wasn't just doing standard jokes. He formed that group, Cross Comedy.
Right, with about a dozen other people.
Mm-hmm.
And their whole thing was being conceptual, messing with the audience. They'd introduce fake comics who were deliberately terrible or plant fake hecklers to kind of derail the show in these planned ways.
That sounds very Mr. Show. That idea of playing with the form itself, not just telling jokes within it.
Exactly. That's the direct line. Moving from just jokes to these conceptual, audience-baiting sketches. It cemented his style. Political satire, black comedy, alternative stuff, using blue humor for impact.
And this uncompromising style started getting noticed, right? He got specials.
Yeah, he landed an HBO special, The Bride is Back, in 1999. Then his first tour film, Let America Laugh, came out in 2003.
Plus Grammy nominations for the albums.
2 of them, yeah. Best Comedy Album nods for Shut Up You Fucking Baby to 2003, and then later for America Great in 2016. It showed there was an audience for this, even if it was maybe more niche.
And even the way he released those albums, it wasn't straightforward.
No, it was kind of complicated, which feels very on brand. He'd often release audio and video versions around the same time, but with different content.
So you couldn't just buy one and get the whole thing.
Right. It's like he was making you work for it, making a statement against easily packaged stuff. Think about 2016. The Netflix special was Making America Great Again, but the audio album was America Great.
Subtle difference in the title, mocking the slogan.
Yeah, and the material itself was different enough that if you were a real fan, you'd want both. It's deliberately complex, rewards the dedicated fan, often released on indie labels like Sub Pop. It's very anti-corporate in a way.
Making the consumer work, rejecting the easy path. That feels like a good transition into how he actually broke into screenwriting, which sounds almost accidental at first.
It kind of was. Okay, so next stage. Those breakthrough collaborations. Moving from the Boston scene to L.A., writing for TV. This really starts with the Ben Stiller Show in the early 90s.
Right, that show was legendary, even though it didn't last long.
Such a creative hub. Cross joined as a writer near the end of its run. He popped up in some sketches too, but mostly writing, involved in classics like The Legend of T.J. Oputer.
And critically, that's where he connected with Bob Odenkirk.
The meeting that changed everything, really. And that partnership paid off almost immediately.
Yeah.
He won that Emmy for writing in '93, right as the show was ending.
So he had this industry validation, this Emmy Award, right before launching his own defining project.
Exactly. Which was, of course, Mr. Show with Bob and David,
Yeah.
from '95 to '98 on HBO. This thing was just foundational for a whole generation of comedians.
He co-created it, wrote it, produced it, starred in it.
The whole deal. And it wasn't just sketches, it was meta-comedy. Always breaking the fourth wall, referencing itself, linking sketches in these weird, intricate ways.
It got Emmy nominations too, right? For the writing and the show itself.
3 nominations for his work on it. It cemented its place as like the absolute peak of alternative conceptual TV comedy at the time. You can see its DNA in so many shows that came later, Key and Peele, Tim and Eric, that kind of stuff. The writing was just so smart, avoiding the easy punchline.
So the influence was huge. And Hollywood started noticing not just the writer, but the performer too. The unique presence.
Yeah, they realized they wanted that weird energy on screen, so he started branching out pretty quickly into film roles and voice acting.
And those early film roles really show that split we talked about, like Men in Black in '97.
Huge blockbuster,
Yes.
global hit. And who does he play? Newton, the weird morgue attendant.
The slightly creepy, conspiracy theory-ish guy.
Exactly. He's in the mainstream machine, but he's cast as the quirky, off-kilter element within it.
And he came back for the sequel.
Yep, Men in Black 2 in 2002. Newton's now running a video store, still on the strange periphery. Massive films, but he's the alt-comedy figure inserted into them.
His voice work kind of followed that pattern too, right? Playing very specific characters.
Definitely. Like, he was a Marine in the video game Halo 2, the Clerk Zero and Grand Theft Auto, San Andreas. Roles that need a certain niche delivery.
And Happy Time Harry in Aqua Teen Hunger Force. That call was disturbing.
Yes. Perfectly unsettling voice work. But there's another voice connection that's less known, but really underlines his commitment to, like, pure audio performance. His work with Joe Frank.
Ah, the avant-garde radio guy.
Yeah. Cross appeared in several of Frank's experimental radio programs, starting way back in '94 with things like A Hearing, The Last Run, which became the O.J. Chronicles. He played O.J.'s valet in that.
So even while he's getting Emmys and doing blockbusters, he's still doing this really niche, difficult, experimental radio drama.
Right up until 2015, apparently. It just shows that need to always have a foot outside the mainstream, doing something purely for the art, maybe. It's a perfect example of that duality.
And that whole trajectory, the writing, the unique performance style, the mainstream adjacent roles, it all leads perfectly into the character that really blew up his public profile.
The character that became almost synonymous with him, even if it started small.
Yeah.
Tobias Funkemakul.
Dr. Finka, co-starring in Arrested Development starting in 2003. The irony is just amazing that this huge defining role, it was supposed to be minor.
Just a small part,
Yeah.
initially, But the writers, and Cross himself, just ran with it and turned him into this, like, absolute comedic engine for the whole dysfunctional Blue family saga.
The world's first anal rapist, analyst and therapist, who wants to be an actor, is a never nude, has all this denial.
It was just the perfect storm for Cross's style. High concept, painfully self-aware, but also completely clueless comedy, all wrapped up in one character.
All that subtext with Tobias, the accidental double entendres, the desperate need for validation, the professional failure hidden by pure delusion. It let Cross use that intricate, detailed style he honed on Mr. Show, but in a more, traditional sitcom format.
Sort of traditional. Arrested Development pushed boundaries, too. But yeah, it brought him huge recognition, that Satellite Award nomination plus the 3 SAG nominations for the ensemble.
And besides Tobias, he was still doing other stuff. Guest roles on more standard comedies.
Yeah, popping up on Just Shoot Me, The Drew Carey Show, News Radio. Showing range.
But he also kept trying to launch his own things, projects that were closer to his darker, more specific humor.
Like that animated show, Freak Show.
Right, in 2006. That leaned much more into his black comedy sensibilities. But it didn't really find an audience, got canceled pretty fast, which maybe shows that while his voice is strong, the market for his really specific stuff isn't always huge.
He also had that regular gig doing political satire on TV, playing Russ Lieber on The Colbert Report.
Yeah, from 2005 to 2007, Colbert's liberal nemesis. The radio host from Madison, Wisconsin, that was a great bit.
It was vital because it let him inject his actual political viewpoint, or at least satire of that viewpoint, right back into the mainstream conversation on a show that was all about media critique.
And that kind of direct political engagement fits perfectly with his next big creator project, The Increasingly Poor Decisions of Todd Margaret.
Oh, Todd Margaret. Yeah, that ran from 2010 to 2016. Cross created, wrote, produced, starred, the whole thing again.
And that show is pure distilled Cross, isn't it? Very dark, very uncomfortable.
Absolutely. It's that really painful, cringy, British-style black comedy, just escalating failure. Todd Margaret's this awful, incompetent liar, and everything he touches just collapses catastrophically.
It perfected that kind of cringe humor where you almost can't watch, but the downward spiral is so meticulously plotted.
Yeah.
It's different from Tobias, whose pain is more internal delusion. Todd Margaret actively ruins lives.
Yeah, it's bleak, but structurally brilliant. So, okay. We've got the alternative pioneer, the Emmy winner, the political voice, the sitcom megastar. Now we have to get into where it all crashes together, the commerce, the conflict, the controversies. This is where it gets really interesting.
This is where the story gets dramatic, yeah. Because he just refuses to separate his opinions, artistic, political, from his work, even when it clearly costs him. And nothing symbolizes that more than the whole Alvin and the Chipmunks saga.
The ultimate symbol, yes. Starring as the villain, Ian Hawke, in the first 3 films, starting in 2007. Pure mainstream family entertainment. The polar opposite of Mr. Show.
And apparently he initially turned it down, which says a lot right there.
You did. He reconsidered, eventually took the part.
Yeah.
Presumably, the paycheck for a big studio franchise is hard to ignore.
Which led to that famous industry joke from Patton Oswalt.
Oh, yeah. Oswald joked that he and Brian Posen read the script, threw it across the room in disgust, and David Cross caught it.
Oof. It just perfectly captures how some in the comedy world saw it, like a betrayal or maybe just a necessary compromise.
But the real drama exploded around the 3rd movie, Chipwrecked, in 2011. Cross did not hold back about that experience. He called it,
literally without question, the most unpleasant experience I've ever had in my professional life. Pretty strong words.
And he got specific. He publicly accused an unnamed female producer of anti-Semitism, of mistreating him during the shoot. But the craziest part, the peak absurdity, was the cruise ship.
The Pelican suit incident. He said he was forced at legal gunpoint, obviously hyperbole, but showing how trapped he felt to spend a week filming on a Carnival cruise.
But not as Ian Hawke, the character people would recognize.
He had to wear an unrecognizable Pelican suit.
For a whole week.
Yeah.
And his argument, which seems totally reasonable, was that it was pointless because he had no lines during that filming, and nobody could tell it was him anyway. The image is just incredible. The Mr. Show guy, forced into a sweaty mascot suit on a cruise ship for a kid's movie.
The ultimate indignity, maybe. And he spoke out about it, knowing it would likely cause trouble.
And it did. It cost him his bonus. $150,000.
Wow. For violating the non-disparagement clause in his contract.
That specific number, $150K, it puts a price tag on his refusal to just stay quiet. It shows that his outrage, his satire, it's not just an act. He's willing to pay, literally, to speak his mind, which is a fascinating contrast to those early years of financial struggle.
And that refusal to just shut up and take the money, it played out in public feuds, too. The big one was with Larry the Cable Guy.
Right, back in 2005, Cross went after him in Rolling Stone.
Yeah.
Called his act anti-gay, racist humor, said it represented vague American values and anti-intellectual pride.
It wasn't just a bad review, it was an ideological assault. Like, he was continuing that fight against the dumb comedy he hated back in Boston.
Pretty much. And Larry, understandably, was furious. He dedicated a whole chapter in his book, G.I.T.R. Down, to Cross and the PC left, saying Cross messed with his fans. It was this open culture war in comedy.
How did Cross respond?
With more satire, basically. He posted an open letter to Larry the Cable Guy online, kept mocking the act in his stand-up, famously ended a TV performance by yelling, "Get to your done," as he walked off stage. He even created a character, Danny the Plumber Guy, in Freak Show to parody the whole blue-collar comedy thing.
So, sustained mockery. But not all his conflicts ended like that. The story with James Lipton is quite different, right?
Yeah, that one's fascinating. A moment of unexpected reconciliation. Cross had initially made fun of Lipton, the host of Inside the Actors Studio, called him pretentious in Mr. Show sketches in his stand-up.
Mocking that very earnest, almost fawning interview style Lipton had.
Exactly. But then Lipton got cast in Arrested Development. He played Warden Stephen Gentles.
The prison warden. He was great in that.
Apparently, Cross was completely won over by him on set, impressed by his professionalism, his comedic timing, his actual acting skill.
And they became friends.
Yeah, they actually became good friends. Cross still maintained he didn't care for the show, Inside the Actors Studio. He didn't backtrack on his critique of that. But he genuinely liked and respected Lipton, the person and the performer. It shows even Cross could be disarmed by talent.
Okay, let's move into some of the more recent controversies. He keeps generating headlines by speaking out, sometimes in ways that get pretty complicated. We should just report these impartially, based on the sources.
Right. In 2017, there was the incident with Charlene Yee. They reported he'd made racially insensitive comments to them years earlier, back in the mid-2000s.
How did you respond to that?
He apologized. He later theorized, according to the sources, that he might have been doing an impression, like a satirical take on a southern redneck character, trying to mock racism but failing, and that the comments were hurtful regardless of intent. The apology suggested some reflection on how his style could land badly.
Then there was the Utah incident in 2018, with the Mormon garments.
Yeah, that caused a huge stir. He was promoting a show in Salt Lake City and tweeted a photo of himself wearing what he called Mormon religious undergarments.
Predictably, that did not go over well.
No. Immediate protests, people calling it mockery of sacred beliefs. It got serious enough that the president of the University of Utah, where he was performing, issued a statement.
What did the statement say?
It condemned the image as deeply offensive, called it bigotry, but also upheld Cross's First Amendment right to perform on campus. It was this real flashpoint between free expression and religious sensitivity.
And his political statements have remained pointed, globally even.
Very much so. In 2025, sources report him calling the state of Israel corrupt and an apartheid state. Very strong language.
Also in 2025, he spoke out against the Riyadh Comedy Festival.
Yeah, condemned it because of Saudi Arabia's human rights record, called the government literally the most oppressive regime on earth, and said comedians performing there were taking blood money. He directly linked the performers' paychecks to the regime's actions.
He really doesn't moderate his stance, does he? Which kind of leads us back to looking at his broader artistic interests. What drives these choices? What influences him?
His stated influences make a lot of sense when you look at his work. People like Bill Hicks, Andy Kaufman, Richard Pryor, Lenny Bruce. The anti-establishment icons, the conceptual guys.
You can see the direct lineage. Hicks and Bruce for the political bite, Kaufman and Monty Python for the meta-comedy and sketch structure.
But he also cites classics like Lou Costello and Stephen Wright. So it's not just about the message, it's also about the craft, the timing, the construction of comedy.
And these sensibilities show up across different mediums, right? His voice acting continued to be prominent even while he was doing live action.
Oh, yeah. Long-running major roles. He was Crane in the Kung Fu Panda movies for years. Minion and Megamind.
And maybe most significantly, in terms of satire, he was the white voice in Sorry to Bother You.
That's such a perfect role for him, isn't it? Sorry to bother you. Is this incredibly sharp, anti-capitalist satire. And he provides the voice that the main character uses to succeed in that corporate world, the voice of assimilation and, arguably, oppression. That lets him be part of cutting-edge satire even while he's Also voicing Crane the Kung Fu Bird.
He also stepped behind the camera himself as a director.
Yeah, he wrote and directed the film Hits in 2014. But of course, he couldn't just release it normally.
He had to make a statement with the distribution, too.
Exactly. He chose this really unique, almost political strategy. He sold the film initially over BitTorrent, using their bundles program, apparently the first feature film ever distributed that way.
And then a Kickstarter.
Yeah, launched a Kickstarter for the wider release using a pay-what-you-want model. It was clearly a statement about creator control, bypassing traditional distribution, digital ownership. Very philosophical.
Speaking of alternative culture and surprising connections,
Hi.
the Beastie Boys link is pretty great.
Isn't it? Links him right into that Gen X counterculture music scene. He's friends with them, a fan, and amazingly, his voice is sampled at the start of their track. Check it out.
And the story behind that is hilarious. Mike D didn't believe it was him.
Apparently not. Cross had to actually do the voice for him on the spot to prove it was his sample, which just highlights how unique his vocal delivery must be.
He was in their Make Some Noise video too, right?
Yep. And more recently, he had that funny post-credit scene in the Beastie Boys story documentary where he pops up to make fun of their second album, Paul's Boutique, for bombing initially. It's that affectionate insider kind of ribbing.
He also put out a book, didn't he?
Yeah, Drink for a Reason in 2009, a collection of memoirs, satirical fictional memoirs, stuff he'd published before, kind of an autobiography through that specific cross lens. Again, blending the personal, the political, the satirical.
And just a couple of key personal details that seem relevant. He's married to the actress Amber Tamblyn. They have a daughter. He holds dual British and American citizenship.
And he explicitly describes his politics as definitely more socialist Democrat than centrist politician. So the public stances, they seem to come from a genuine place. It's not just persona.
But maybe the most surprising, validating piece of trivia, connecting back to his anti-establishment side, is the Kickstarter thing.
Oh, right, that revelation from co-founder Yancey Strickler. That David Cross was literally the first investor in Kickstarter. Back in 2006, part of the initial friends and family round.
It's perfect, isn't it? The guy railing against the industry was simultaneously helping fund the platform designed to let creators bypass that same industry.
It totally encapsulates the paradox. He helped build the escape hatch while also starring in the machine he was critiquing.
So wrapping this up, we keep coming back to this core tension. He's managed to be both this fiercely political, alternative comic writing for Vice, doing aggressive stand-up, and at the same time, a super visible part of mainstream family entertainment. Sometimes, like with the Chipmunks, to his own very public, very expensive regret.
He really is the embodiment of that clash between art and commerce in today's media world. He reached the heights of mainstream fame, but often through roles that made him miserable, and he never stopped criticizing the system that paid him. He's like the ultimate outsider who got inside and then just started poking everything with a stick.
He used the mainstream platform, the money, to fuel the niche stuff, the indie film with the weird distribution, investing in Kickstarter, his relentless touring. It's not just a contradiction, maybe it's a strategy, a disruptive one.
So the big question this leaves us with, connecting it all back.
Yeah.
What does his career tell us about comedy now? You look at his reputation for confrontation, all the controversies, the Chipmunk stuff, the Mormon garments photo, the political statements.
Does being that provocative, that potentially offensive, actually hurt a career anymore?
Right.
Or has the landscape shifted so much that maybe those controversies just solidify your brand, make you seem more authentic or like a truth teller to your specific audience?
Exactly. What are the actual limits or maybe the lack of limits for anti-establishment humor when it operates right inside the mainstream marketplace? Does the machine just absorb the critique now? That's definitely something to think about the next time you see a comedian really going for it.